Start it up then.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. We have here in Huntington Beach, California, the amazing John Leal. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me, man.
Good. I'm doing very well. I don't know why I said that.
Yeah, well, how are you doing?
I'm talking to you.
All right, let me interview you.
We got a pretty good setup right here in your little
living
home.
room area, yeah.
And you got a lot of guitars just standing on the wall over here.
Yeah, it's pretty much like Guitar Center in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got 10 guitars on the wall and like 3 of them in my room just hanging out.
Oh, wow.
You know,
People
but-
come in and rent them? Or
I should, right? Just start leasing them out. Yeah, I've just collected them throughout the years, you know. Like, started playing when I was 12 and every other year. Oh, I wouldn't say every other year, but every now and then I'll get a new one, you know, and they each kind of sound a little different, have different styles and all that, you know. So got some acoustic, some electric, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, nice.
Some basses.
Now, is a guitar your first instrument, or is it somewhere down the line?
Kind of. It is weird. I did start with guitar because my sister actually got her first guitar before I got anything, and then I kind of just messed around on it every now and then, you know.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't really take it too seriously for a while. I was just kind of like, oh, look, I learned like Seven Nation Army, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. And then after a while, I started playing drums because I joined marching band in high school.
Oh, wow.
And then so I was doing percussion for that. And then that's when I got really into drumming. But I didn't have a drum set. So,
Yeah.
you know, I stuck with guitar for a while. Eventually, I got a drum set, like maybe when I was like 15 years old. And then I switched over to drums mainly, and I kind of didn't play anything else but drums for a couple years.
Oh,
And then I moved to where I couldn't play drums anymore because it's like really loud, you know.
Yeah.
So I couldn't play it in my living room or anything. Like the neighbors would complain. So then I went back to guitar, and that's kind of my main thing now. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I remember Darren Malakian, he used to say that drums were his first love, but his parents told him they couldn't turn off drums, so they gave him a
Yeah.
guitar.
Pretty much, yeah. That's kind of pretty much what happened to me without anything being said, you know. I kind of just, I mean, I got a couple complaints every now and then, and I was like, well, I guess I'm going to pick up the guitar again, you know?
Oh, man.
Yeah. I mean, I still play drums, but, you know, every now and then. Not as often as I would like.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. When did you start writing songs?
I started writing maybe when I was like 17 or 18. And I didn't really write like songs as far as like, you know, here's an acoustic song for you guys with like all the music written and all the lyrics and I'm performing or whatever, you know. Like I started writing like lyrics more than anything. And I just kind of have like a catalog of lyrics that I've written throughout the years that every now and then I'll go through and maybe recycle some that I never used, you know. That's the main thing I wrote growing up. And then as far as writing music, I didn't really start doing that till I was maybe like 21, 22. And then I got really serious about it. And I mean, I've been in a couple bands before where we wrote music together, you know. But as far as like solo stuff, like I didn't really start till like my early 20s. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So,
nice. And you're actually pretty educated for a musician. You went to the Musicians Institute for a while.
I did, yeah. I went to the Musicians Institute in LA. Maybe I think it was a couple years ago. I was 24 at the time, so 3 years ago. And I only did one semester because it's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually tried to go there when I graduated high school. I wanted to go when I was 18, and I went to the seminar, and I actually took a drum lesson from the drummer of Korn at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that kind of inspired me because I wanted to go for drums at the time. You know, I was trying to be a drummer, But like I said, it's really expensive, and I was just fresh out of high school and just had my first job and everything. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna put this on hold. And I finally got back around to it when I turned 24. But it's still pretty expensive. But I was able to do one semester, and I took a guitar class, a piano class, and audio recording. So just like production kind of stuff, you know.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And I would have liked to stay longer, but I mean, I learned the basics of what I needed to, you know. Mostly was there for like the production class. The other ones were just kind of to get my foundation like solid. Like I didn't learn too much that I didn't already know, but I learned kind of how to like make it like proficient, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
And then as far as the audio recording stuff, I didn't know anything about that, so I kind of just messed with GarageBand before words, you know, and just figured it out. But now I use Logic, and I'm still not the best at recording, you know, but I could do like an amateur recording and stuff, like some demos. But whenever I record my stuff, I go to an actual studio to get that done.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Knowing all the technical stuff kind of gives you an edge.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. I try to be well-rounded as much as I can, you know, but
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you trying to produce anything? Like just doing producing rather than for other people, essentially.
Like as far as audio and stuff goes.
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, for a while, I actually did a podcast with a buddy of mine too, where I was recording or producing it, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
He was the host, and I was like semi-host. I would just kind of interject every now and then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I did the production more than anything. But we stopped. That was maybe like 2 years ago, and it just kind of fell off the wagon, you know, or whatever. But I don't really produce other people. Like I would like to eventually, but I need to get like the proper equipment. Right now, I just have my laptop and like a microphone. You know,
Oh, yeah.
so like I could do demos, but you know, it's not gonna be like good quality, or it'll be decent quality, but it won't be like anything you want to release kind of thing, you know.
Wow.
So eventually, I'll get to that point.
Yeah. But how does it feel going into the studio when you record your album?
It's cool. It's interesting because I mean, I'm a solo artist, so I pretty much record like every instrument on my own. You know, I'll start. Every song's different. Some songs I have like the full idea of what I want to do. You know, so I'll go in and I'll record drums, then I'll do bass, guitar. If there's piano, I'll do that, and then vocals. But there's some songs that I just go into it without really knowing like what I want to do. I just kind of have like a guitar like riff, so I'll record the guitar, and then I'll like improvise it while I'm there with the other instruments, you know. So it's cool. It's a little intimidating sometimes, but it's also like gets my creativity going, you know. Like sometimes, especially because I'm paying for the studio time,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to write while I'm at the studio, but I have to also come up with something while I'm here, and it kind of makes me like force myself to make decisions, you know. Like I wrote something, like, do I like it? No. Okay, well, you got to fix it like right now, or you got to stick with it, you know, because we're on the clock. Yeah. So it's cool. But I mean, I enjoy recording, but that's the hard thing about being a solo artist is like I'm writing all the parts, and you know, I don't really have anyone to bounce ideas off of. So like if I have like, you know, like I said, a guitar like riff going, I don't really know what it's going to sound like with somebody playing drums to it, you know. Like I can hear it in my head a little bit, and I'm like, okay, I think it'll work. But then when I actually record it, I'll find out if it does or doesn't.
Right. It sounds a lot different in your head than it does.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm like, it worked perfectly in my head. I don't know why it's not working.
It's
But
good at the time.
yeah, right. Yeah, so it's a challenge, but I mean, I think I'm used to it now. You know, I've been doing it for a couple years, and I mean, I know how I work, so like, I won't go into the studio if I don't think I can do it. You know, I'm not like 100% prepared to like record my song, but I'm at least like 80% like ready for it, you know, and then the other 20% is like improv. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Nice. So, like, you're basically self-producing this stuff, and no one else is
It's
coming in
essentially,
saying,
yeah.
do this, maybe try this or something.
Right. I mean, I work with my friend Pedro, who they have like their music studio. It's called Find the Good, or FTG, and I record out of their studio, and I've known them for years. We met in high school, and they're doing their whole audio production stuff, like with their label and all that. So I'm not actually a part of their label, but I work with them like pretty often. You know, that's where I do all my recording. And he will every now and then kind of like, you know, give me a little bit of like direction if he thinks it's like, oh, that sounds really good, but why don't you try it this way, you know, or whatever. So he kind of helps me produce it every now and then. But most of the time, yeah, it's just me, and he records it. But, you know, it's nice to have like another ear to kind of help me, like, you know, if I'm kind of stuck, like, oh man, I don't know, like if that sounded good or if I should stick with it. He'll be like, oh, well, why don't you try it this way, you know? And I'll be like, okay, cool. Hey, that sounds better, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially because I've known him since I was like 15, so we kind of like know what we each other like, you know, as far as music goes. It's a little easier to work with each other.
Yeah, that's pretty good. If like the other person doesn't know what you're trying to go for, it's like
Right.
throw in something and
yeah,
you're trying to go rock, and then he throws in like jazz or something.
Exactly.
He's like, I don't know about that.
Right, because it's also like you gotta depending on what you like, that doesn't really matter as far as what I'm writing, you know, like if he, like you said, if he likes jazz and I'm writing a rock song, he can't really be like, well, yeah, let's make it jazzy, because I'm like, it's not gonna work, man, you know. Yeah. But even though we do like different music, like we also have a common ground, you know. We were actually in a band together growing up, so that's kind of like, we've written before, so he knows how I work, I know how he works, and it kind of works out that way, you know. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Was a marching band like kind of get you? Did that settle you as a musician, or was it something else that kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna do this?
Kind of. I mean, marching band definitely helped me want to become a drummer. You know, like, because I didn't really know if I wanted to be a musician until I was probably like, yeah, around 15 when I started doing marching band. So, because you know, that's the one thing I wish would have been different for me growing up, is that I had played music when I was much younger. You know, I didn't start playing till I was like 13. You know, I said I played when I was 12, but not really. You know, I played like every now and then just for fun, but then I took it more seriously around 13, 14, 15 is when I joined marching band, and like because I couldn't play drums at home, I could play drums in band, you know, and that's when I got more into music, like as far as listening to it, you know, and I started experimenting with like my musical taste as far as like I want to know more bands and discover new styles and this and that, you know. And so marching band definitely helped me like solidify that, as far as like I can play drums now, you know. And it was fun and I enjoyed it. So, and then after that I wanted to pursue it more. I originally just wanted to be a drummer, you know. I didn't really care for like songwriting. I always just wanted to play drums. It was just a lot of fun for me. But like I said, growing up, that kind of changed a little bit, and now I actually probably play drums the least, even though it's still my favorite instrument. I just don't have the resources, I guess, to play it, you know.
The room.
Right, exactly. So like, I mean, I play drums in a band. It's a cover band for Pink Floyd stuff.
Oh man.
But as far as that goes, that's pretty much the only time I play drums now, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
of course. Wow. But besides drums and guitar, you play bass as well, right?
Yeah. That's also something I started playing when I was younger too. I played bass in concert band. So marching band, I was doing drums like for drumline, and then like when it wasn't like marching season, we'd still play like for concerts and stuff. Then I played stand-up bass for that. Oh wow. And that's kind of where I learned how to play bass. Or I started to learn how to play bass, you know. And then but it was more about like reading music, and then after that I just bought my own bass. That was actually the first like instrument that I bought myself, was a bass, you know. The first guitar we had was my sister's, and then I bought myself a bass after that. And I always just kind of messed around with that. And then growing up, like every band that I've been in, or not every band, but most bands that I've been in, I was always the bass player. And not necessarily by choice, you know, but nobody wants to be the bass player, so I was like I'll do it. and I kind of just not really got stuck into it, but you play bass for one band, and then the other band's like, "Oh, you play bass? You want to play bass?" I'm like, I guess.
Yeah, we need a bass player.
Yeah, right. Like by default, I kind of just fell into that.
Right.
But I mean, I love playing bass too. It's probably, I mean, I wouldn't say it's my least favorite. I think piano is probably my least favorite, and not necessarily because I don't enjoy piano, but just because I'm not that good at it. I've never spent the time to really practice it. Like I can play pretty decently, but I'm nowhere near the level of any of my other instruments on piano.
Wow.
But yeah, which is kind of funny because when I went to the Musicians Institute, um, and I started getting more serious about my songwriting, like for my solo stuff, I wrote like maybe 7 songs on piano.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I mean, I translate them to guitar afterwards, but they started all on piano. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of funny how that works out.
I think a lot of musicians, they're not. There's not an instrument around. They'll carry like a little keyboard just so like they can set something down.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I do that sometimes on my phone. Like a
Little app
little
on there.
piano. Yeah. If I have like a melody in my head, I'm like, oh, what would it sound like?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Can you notate music pretty well, or is that kind of like a difficult thing for you?
Not as well as I would like. Like I can do it. It'll just take me a while to do it. Like I can read music as well. Like sight reading is a little bit more difficult for me. Like if you just give me the sheet music and you're like, all right, play this right now.
Yeah.
Like I could probably do like a pretty sloppy job at it, and kind of fumble my way through it. But if I sit with it for a while, I can figure it out. Like I know how to read it, but as far as sight reading it is a little bit more like difficult. I could do that with drums for the most part. Like I could sight read drum music, but give me a piano or a guitar sheet and I have to sit with it for a few minutes and figure it out.
Yeah.
And as far as me notating it, same thing. Kind of, I could do it with drums, But as far as like once you start reading like treble clef and bass clef and all that stuff, it gets a little bit more like complicated.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I never really studied that. Like I did go to school for music, but I didn't really do like the notation parts and stuff like that. Right. And I was mostly self-taught. Like I went to MI for production, and in band I learned a little bit of drums and bass, but after that it was just kind of me figuring it out.
Wow. Musicians Institute, is there an emphasis on reading music, or?
There is, if it depends on the classes, because you get to choose kind of the path you want to do, and if I wanted to go that route, I could have, but because I was only able to go for a semester, I decided to go for production instead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because like I could always learn how to read music on my own. It's just a matter of taking the time to do it.
Yeah, of course.
But I felt like production was something I needed like guidance with. So.
Yeah, getting that edge for you, it's pretty good. Now you can go to studios by yourself and
right.
record.
Yeah, I mean that's the goal. Eventually, I would like to have like my own home studio kind of thing. But
okay.
Yeah, I need to save up a little bit more money for some equipment and do that first.
Right, and then studio time's expensive.
Yeah,
too.
It can be.
It can be.
Yeah, depends where you go, but yeah, it's not cheap. Let's say that.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know a guy who does like, I don't know how, like $3,000 an hour.
That's ridiculous.
Pretty expensive.
Yeah.
But he's really good too. So like,
yeah,
he's pretty good producing. But yeah, that's just how it is.
Yeah, it's true, and that's also why like you got to be prepared when you go into the studio, and unfortunately, a lot of the time I'm not. Just because, like I said, like I'm a solo artist, so I can only be so prepared for it. Like I said, some of it's just improv, but I try to get as prepared as I can. Otherwise, I'm wasting studio time, which is wasting money, and it's not cheap.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to record your this past album?
Well, this past album I recorded is actually like I think it's 5 or 6 songs EP. It's called Mashfaratu, which is kind of like it's like a horror themed album, kind of like along like lines of like the Misfits kind of thing.
Oh, okay. All right.
And that took me maybe 4 months to do it, something like that.
Oh.
I mean, actually, it's kind of funny how I wrote it. I was on a trip to Colorado with my sister. We went for a wedding. Like one of my friends was getting married out there, and the town we stayed in was actually like pretty like horror themed town. I forget the name of it, but like the mansion where they filmed the Shining, or not where they filmed it, but where they got the idea to film it was right there. So we kind of went to like visit the hotel and all that stuff. And so everything there was just like Halloween themed, even though it was like August, you know.
Yeah.
And I kind of just got on that like that's kind of cool, and I got into the mood of like, you know, I think I could write like a themed album about this kind of stuff. So then while we were there, I actually wrote all the lyrics like in one day for like 6 songs.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then so like that's kind of where it came from. I just wrote it all in one day. It just kind of like was flowing. And then I started recording it like a month later as far as music goes, like song by song, and it took me about 4 months to get it done. I was kind of in a hurry because I wanted to get it done before Halloween. So it was very like, you know, it was August and I was like, okay, I got to push this like really fast.
Yeah.
And I didn't make the deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah. I released it like mid-November or something.
Kind of missed the point.
Yeah. I was able to release one song for Halloween, but I wanted to do the whole thing, you know, but
Oh, nice.
but yeah, so yeah, that's on Spotify. If you just look up my name, John Leal, it's on there, you know.
That's Leal.
Correct.
For all you guys.
And John, John.
Yes.
I know yours is Jon, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, a little different, but
Yeah, just a little. People spell it with an H anyway, so
Yeah,
it doesn't
right.
really matter. It's the point.
there's like 5 different ways to spell John.
I guess I never knew that
Right.
until people kept mistaking it.
Right. But yeah, so that one's out right now, and I'm working on some songs right now that I'm just waiting on artwork, and I think I'll probably actually release one in the next week or two. I think it's getting to that point, you know.
Oh, nice.
So stay tuned for that.
Do you have a theme for this one, or is it kind of like?
Kind of. Originally, like going back to what I said earlier, that I started writing lyrics when I was like 18. I kind of came up with like a whole concept. Like I wanted to do a concept album, and it was like a story based on tarot cards, and basically the first card in the tarot deck is like the Fool card. So the story, like loosely, the story I could get like really detailed, and it would probably take a while to tell about, you know, but like the story is basically about the Fool. Like that's the first card is the Fool. So it's just kind of like the Fool's journey through like every card. So like the story revolves around him, but then you go to a different card and it's like, you know, the Lovers or Death and the Stars and all that kind of stuff. And every card I wanted to make, like every song I wanted to make it about a different card, and every card should be able to stand alone, like as its own song, but also fit into like a big story, like, you know, for the whole album. So I wanted to do that, and I came up with that idea when I was like 18 as far as the story goes, and I'm still recording it, you know. Like yeah, it's
been 10 years.
Yeah. Pretty much. So you know, little by little it's getting there, but that's pretty much like like I don't want to say like my masterpiece, but like my magnum opus, I guess, you know. Like I've been working on that for forever. I released one song a while ago about it. Is titled The Devil. That was the Devil tarot card.
Oh, okay.
That was the first song I actually released as a solo artist, and I was able to get the singer from Mushroom Head to help me out with it, so that was kind of cool.
Right.
Yeah. And what was cool about that was that was my first song as a single artist, and I got like one of my favorite artists to sing on it, you know. So that was pretty fun. But that's off of the same album that I'm doing now. But I kind of switched gears, and I don't know if I'm going to release the album like as a full-length album. I think I'm just going to start releasing single songs, because it's taken me like 10 years.
Yeah.
You know? So eventually I might put it on like a compilation and be like, here's the full album the way it was meant to be heard, you know.
Right.
But I'll be releasing singles here and there.
So that actually might be a cool concept. You have them as singles, so it's each tarot card coming out every once in a while, and then have all the songs and then put them on an album.
Yeah.
That's actually a cool concept.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely faster than what I'm doing because I was trying to compile all the songs first and then release them. And right now I have maybe like 7 or 8 songs like recorded. I still need to do vocals for a couple of them, but there's a couple that are pretty much done for the most part. But there's 22 tarot cards. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to do all 22,
Yeah, it's like
but
2 albums worth.
yeah, exactly. But I have enough material to do about 17 or 18 right now.
Oh, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, but I still need to record like 10 more songs. So I'm like, like I said, singles might be better. And this one I said I'm about to release in the next week or two. That one's for the Lovers tarot card.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be a little different than my other stuff. The stuff I have on Spotify right now is that Nosferatu EP, which is like the horror, like hard rock thing, and then the Devil song. And so these will be a little. This next one is going to be like an acoustic song, So it's going to be a lot different than the stuff I have up there right now because it's all like hard rock kind of thing.
Yeah, and you get a little contrast in there.
Yeah, and a lot of people kind of think that all I do is hard rock because that's all I've released. But,
Yeah.
but it's just kind of how it happened. But I do a lot of different music, different styles and stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
I like to just experiment.
Yeah. What kind of stuff did you listen to when you were growing up?
Well, the first like real introduction to music, I guess, was like the Beatles. Like my dad was a pretty big Beatles fan, so I would listen to it a lot. Like if we were just driving around, like or just hanging out at home. It was always in the background, so like I never really like was playing them myself, but I was always hearing them, and then
Right.
after that, like the first band that I kind of discovered myself was I think it was like Linkin Park.
Linkin Park, yeah.
Yeah. Like I remember hearing one of their music videos on MTV. I think it was Crawling, and I was like, "Oh, this is really cool."
Yeah.
It was like a little like heavy, but it has like the contrast with the rapping and all that, and that kind of got me more into music, and I kind of got into that like a hard rock like scene. Uh, I got into like the earlier bands I listened to were like Linkin Park and like Blink-182 and Rage Against the Machines and Incubus, stuff like that, And then when I started like kind of discovering more stuff beyond like the radio or whatever, I kind of got into like the metal stuff. Like that was like growing up, I was like a metalhead. Yeah, I listened to like Slipknot and like Mudvayne and stuff like that, like new metal, I guess,
Mhm.
But and for a while, that's all I would listen to was just metal. I was that kid who was like, if it's not metal, I'm not listening to it.
Yeah.
But now I hardly listen to metal now. It's like,
Oh, really?
yeah, like I'll hear it every now and then, and like I still enjoy it. And mostly it's like I don't listen to anything new that's metal unless it's like a band that I grew up listening to. But I'll play like old songs from like years ago that I still enjoy, and like more nostalgic kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't really listen to metal anymore. I kind of just listen to like experimental rock, alternative, acoustic stuff like that, And like I mean, Spanish rock was a big thing for me too growing up
Yeah.
because my mom was really into Spanish rock. So like I got the Beatles from my dad, and then I got like Spanish rock from my mom, and that also kind of influenced a lot of the way that I play drums. Is like kind of like a Latin vibe,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it was cool. We had a lot of different styles growing up.
Nice. What bands right now are you listening to that you kind of like put on repeat?
Right now I'm listening to this band called Anathema. I don't know if you've heard of them, but
I haven't.
I think they're from Europe. I'm not sure exactly where, but yeah, it's kind of like very like guitar and vocal driven. Like it's two singers, a male and female vocals. It's very atmospheric rock, but it's pretty cool like stuff. I like that a lot right now. Another band that I kind of always have on repeat is like Tool.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, and like his other projects, Maynard's the singer, like A Perfect Circle and stuff like that. Those are like bands I've listened to for years, and I just like always listen to them. You know.
Oh, well.
I'm trying to think of something else I've been listening to lately. This band called Riverside, which is also from, I think they're from Sweden. It's like progressive rock kind of thing. So yeah, I mean those are like the three that I've been listening to a lot, but it's always like random stuff too, you know. Like I'm listening to Pink Floyd a lot because I'm in that cover band, so
Yeah.
I kind of have to like do my homework, you know.
Gotta be on top of that stuff.
Right. Yeah, and I play bass for another cover band for the Strokes. So I'm listening to them a lot too, and I was actually never like a big Strokes fan growing up. Like I knew like the singles and stuff, but I was never like huge. And I kind of just got asked to play for them, and I was like, sure, I'll do it. And I'm getting more into it now. You know, I'm a little late on the wagon for that,
Yeah.
but it's cool. I like it. But yeah, that's pretty much it for now, I think.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. What for each of the instruments that you know, what artists kind of influenced your playing the most on each of those?
For each of them,
Yeah.
for drums, the drummer of Tool, Danny Carey, was kind of like my biggest influence for that, because he's super like tribal with his playing. It's not like really your standard rock beat, you know.
Yeah.
So I always really enjoyed that, and kind of figuring out like these rhythms that were more based on like the toms and less on like the hi-hat and snare, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I really enjoyed doing that. As far as guitar goes, I don't really know about guitar. I mean, one of my favorite guitar players is John Five, who's the guitarist for Rob Zombie. I think he's really underrated because he, you know, if you listen to Rob Zombie, it's just like power chords the whole time kind of thing, like really simple music. But him as a guitar player, he's like really talented, and like if you ever watch him playing, even on his Instagram, he'll post videos every now and then. He's like really talented, like crazy Spanish guitar and like finger picking and all that stuff, you know.
Oh, wow,
So
cool.
I got a lot of like influence from him. For bass, I would say again going back to Tool, the bassist from Tool, Justin Chancellor. Like he's probably my favorite bassist. It's just I feel like it's really catchy bass lines that are not over the top, you know, because they're kind of on the progressive side where it's not just like your radio friendly type of thing, you know, but it's also not over the top where it's like too complicated. And I always just really like the style and sound that he got from it. And I don't really play piano, so I can't really tell you that. You know? Like, I mean, I listen to music with piano, and I don't think I have a favorite piano player, you know.
Yeah. Bach,
But
maybe?
yeah, right. Yeah, but as far as vocals go, you know, vocals is actually the last instrument, if you want to call it an instrument, you know, that I've kind of started with. I've been playing like instruments, like handheld instruments for years, but vocals I've only been singing for about like 2 years maybe now, like where I actually was trying to sing, you know, as far beyond that of just like singing in my car or karaoke or all that stuff, you know. Yeah, like I actually started to try to become a vocalist. And I guess some influences for that would be like Nick Cave, Maynard from Tool. Yeah, I think those are my two main ones. There's a couple more, but I can't think of off the top of my head. Anthony Green's a good one. Yeah, just like pretty much anything that I've been listening to growing up. Corey Taylor from Slipknot, but he's like the metal vocalist, but he has like a bunch of acoustic stuff, and like he's probably one of my favorite voices as far as like ballads go. When he's actually singing and not screaming, he has like a really good voice. Yeah,
like the Stone Sour song.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, he's probably my main influence too, because Slipknot was actually like my favorite band growing up.
Oh.
And they're still cool, you know. I like them, but I prefer his softer stuff now. You know, maybe I'm just getting old. I don't know.
Yeah. Like I've noticed over the years, like there are certain songs I can't really listen to because it brings me back to a time where it's like, man, that was not a good time.
Right. Yeah. And I guess that's part of why I was so into metal back then. You know, I was like this little angry teenager or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I mean, everyone has their bad days or whatever, but I'm not really like in that headspace anymore where like I need to like listen to like angry music, you know. Like I appreciate it for what it is and like the talent and how hard it is to play some of that stuff and all that, you know. And sometimes it is just like, oh, that's a cool song, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really listen to that anymore. Like by choice, you know.
Yeah. Do you have any songs like that where it's like you put it on and it's like, oh no, why did I put this on?
Yeah.
It's a good song, but I can't listen to this anymore.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. A couple. I mean, you know, songs that are like nostalgic, but like not in a good way, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like some Slipknot songs, some of their ballads are kind of like that, you know. But yeah, just I can't think of anything off the top of my head necessarily, but I'm sure there's a couple songs that I haven't heard in forever that if I heard I'd be like, oh man, why did I do that, you know. But that's the thing about music is like a lot of songs hold memories, you know. It's more than just like you listen to it because it's fun or entertaining. Like there's a lot of like memories behind songs, you know. So everybody, like I could pick out a song, you know, like I don't know, like Yesterday by the Beatles, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure everybody has their own different memory associated with that song, you know. Like I could probably like be like, oh, that song reminds me of this and that, and like you're like, well, it reminds me of something completely different, you know.
Yeah.
But it's the same song, so everybody associates it with something else, you know. But I guess that's one of those songs that it's just a really sad song, you know. It's a good song, but it's not a song I'll play very often because it kind of does depress me a little bit.
Oh yeah, definitely. Do you listen to any happy music? Because you like run off like metal and rock.
Yeah.
Not the happiest type of
Right. Yeah. You know, I do, but I don't.
Yeah.
Like I listen to happy music, but not as often as I guess I should or want to. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think of like what the happiest band I listen to is. Yeah, I don't know. I guess a lot of the Spanish rock stuff I listen to is kind of like the happier stuff, you know. It's like more upbeat and dancing and stuff like that. And yeah, like I don't really listen to necessarily happy music, but I don't listen primarily to sad stuff either. It's
Okay.
just kind of like in the middle, you know. It's not necessarily good or bad, but it's just I like to listen to stuff that's like story driven more than anything, you know.
Oh, okay.
Like a lot of David Bowie stuff is kind of like based off of like a story, you know. He's telling like a concept or whatever. Like I like that kind of stuff. But yeah, I guess Bowie would probably be the happiest stuff I listen to, which is, I mean, he's got a big variety, you know, a lot of happy, a lot of sad, but his happy stuff is pretty good. Yeah, I mean, like this band Yell, they're French. They have some pretty good stuff. I don't know what she's saying, but the music sounds the music sounds really cool to me. It's just like upbeat, like dancey stuff, you know. And then I actually listen to not a lot of hip hop, but I used to listen to like J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar and like the old school like Dr. Dre and like Eminem and all that stuff.
Oh, okay.
So that's not necessarily sad, you know. It's not necessarily like super like happy, but you know, there's some like dancey stuff to it and all that.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
It's pretty cool. But yeah, you get stories through albums. It surprised me because like a lot of people just buy individual songs or listen to individual songs.
Right.
But once you listen to an album and what the artists put into it, like what they're trying to tell you, it's like, wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And yeah, I mean, I used to actually want to be an author when I grew up. Like that was actually before a musician, I wanted to write books. And I wrote a couple short stories that I don't even remember what they're about at this point.
Yeah.
I was maybe like 12 years old writing little stories. But I always loved it, and I think that's why like writing lyrics now, I kind of drift more towards like story driven stuff, you know, because it's like not that I want to be an author anymore, but I think it's always just been ingrained into me, like telling stories, you know. So that's kind of primarily what I focus on. Like even that Nosferatu thing is kind of like story driven, you know.
Yeah.
It's just like about like random stuff like vampires and like werewolves and whatnot, but
all the horror stuff.
yeah, but they're telling stories, and the tarot card thing is a whole story thing too, you know. There's very few times where I release a song that's not a story, that's like personal or just something about whatever. But I have a couple, but I haven't released anything of that yet. Yeah.
Okay. Is it, I guess storytelling kind of that helps you write songs. Does any like other art kind of inspire you to write certain ways, like whether lyrics or rhythms or guitar?
Yeah. I mean, I like watching a lot of film, and that helps me kind of. It inspires me in the sense of like, depending on the film, it'll inspire me on the type of music I want to do. Like if it's like I don't know, like let's say like Interstellar kind of thing, then that the soundtrack for that is very like atmospheric and spacey sounding. That kind of gets me into like oh, I kind of want to write something like that. Like more like electronically driven. But if I'm listening to like it's funny. Now I guess I'm talking about Hans Zimmer now. If I'm gonna say The Last Samurai, like then it's more like like it's very like violin driven with like tribal drums and flute and all that kind of stuff. Like so that kind of stuff inspires me as far as like musical scores and soundtracks. But also the films themselves kind of help me as far as like getting me ideas for stories and stuff. I never like rip off anything where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna tell that exact story, but it kind of helps me like come up with my own stories or different versions of things, or like what would happen if the main character did something else instead, or whatever. Like so I kind of try to get inspiration from stuff like that.
Like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. I got a few questions that I guess we could wrap up with, right?
Yeah.
So
for sure.
One question is for people who are going into songwriting, producing, or just recording in the studio. What is the one advice you've heard that rubs you the wrong way, and you just think, why the hell did you? Why would you tell someone that?
Right. For going into the studio, I guess the main thing I would say is like you don't necessarily need to have like a musical education to do any of this stuff. Like people tell you like you need to go to school and you need to learn this and that and blah blah, because when you get to the studio, if you don't know what you're doing, it's not going to work out or whatever. And I mean, depends on where you are and who you are and all that, but I don't think that's necessarily true. Like I said, I kind of went to school for like foundation stuff, but I didn't really get to the level I am because of school. Like it taught me a lot of stuff, but I took what I learned and learned off of that. Like I learned how to play guitar on my own. Like I took a guitar class, but it was, I learned how to play a couple chords, and then the rest I figured out on my own. So like, I just think that, anyone who's trying to do that stuff, if you take the time, you can learn stuff. We have access to like so much technology now. Everything's on YouTube. Just learn how to play something. Yeah. You could even learn how to record on YouTube, probably, I'm sure. So like
videos out there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, a lot of people will tell you there's a right way to do things, but I think whatever way you want to do something, as long as you're doing it because for the right reasons, like you're doing it because you love to do it, not because it's going to make you any money, because it's very hard to make money off of music. Yeah, like I don't do it for the money at all. Like I maybe in the last like 15 years I've been playing music, I've made like less than like $200, something like that. Yeah. So it's definitely not a good paying gig, unless you're playing like weekly and you're getting shows all the time. And, if you get lucky and you make it big, then yeah, you're set. But that's not the reason I do it. I just enjoy doing it. That's probably I guess the second biggest piece of advice, not necessarily as far as going into production, but just in general, like, only do it if you're going to enjoy it. Like, don't do it because you're either trying to impress someone or you're trying to make money or whatever, like it's not going to work out. I mean, it might, but you're probably not going to be happy with it. Yeah. So that's pretty much it, I think.
Oh, wow. Nice. But for anyone trying to learn whatever instrument they are, what would you say that they should start? Obviously with a teacher, but like, what advice would you give someone if they solely want to pursue music, whether it's in the studio or in concert?
Right. Just stick with it, you know. Be persistent, practice a lot, and you know, there's days where you're gonna feel like super frustrated and you're not progressing, but as long as you stick with it and power through, you know, it's gonna get better. There's times where, you know, I've been playing for 15 years and like drums is like my favorite instrument, and I'll go into the studio and play drums, and I'll come out of it feeling like, you know, like, man, that was really bad. You know, like I feel like I haven't even played drums. Like, you know, like, you know, you get down on yourself and stuff, but like, you just gotta realize, like, I heard this piece of advice from a drummer. It was online, so I don't really know what his name is, but he basically kind of put it that way. You know, you're gonna have some bad days, and you kind of just have to be mature enough to realize you just had a bad day. You know, like you're still talented, and you can still get better, and, you know, come back tomorrow, and, you know, your drums are still gonna love you and stuff like that. You know, like so I think it's just don't get frustrated. You know, practice, and don't get frustrated, and just have fun. You know, like you're gonna struggle for a while, but you're gonna also, at one point, it's gonna click, and you're gonna be like, oh wow, like I can play stuff now. Yeah. So
yeah, I think that's just how artists think, because you either like drawing something or writing music or playing music even, it's like, man, that was just a terrible day.
Right.
Someone comes up to you like, oh, that was really great.
Exactly.
Like, really?
Yeah, like you're never gonna be happy with your own stuff, but people are like usually pretty receptive to it, you know.
Right.
Yeah. And like you know, I'll be playing music for a while, and like I'm trying to record a song, and I can just keep constantly adding stuff to it because I'm like, it's not done, you know. It needs to be better.
Yeah.
But it's been done for a while, you know. Sometimes less is more. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, John. And
yeah, man, thanks for having me.
hope all goes well for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anywhere people can follow you on social media, or
yeah, I'm pretty active on Instagram. It's my handle is at John Leal Music. So JohnLealMusic. And Spotify, just my name, John Leal. Those are my main two things. You know, I put all my music on there, and I do my music on Spotify, and pretty much all my updates on Instagram, kind of thing.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Do you ever do Instagram live or anything?
Every now and then, yeah. You know, if I'm in the studio, I'll go live and kind of just let people see what's going on and stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I actually have this project coming up. I've been working on. It's called Spontaneous Music. That's SPAWNTANEOUS, like spontaneous. That's on Instagram as well, under that, at Spontaneous Music. And that is basically a project where we get musicians together to write a song, but it's always different musicians, and we do the song piece by piece. So like I'll get a drummer to lay down a drum beat without any music, just him doing drums by himself, and then whatever he came up with, then we have to write like the guitar part according to the drums, and then the bass and the vocals. And every song is going to be a new group of musicians kind of working together and stuff.
Oh, nice.
So, you know, if you want to check that out, that's Spontaneous Music on Instagram. I'll probably release another video soon. It's a pretty new project. I only have one video right now, but yeah, I'm gonna be working on that, trying to push that out.
Yeah, you got the drums so far.
Yeah.
It's hardly a song.
Right. And actually, if all goes well, I don't know when you're gonna release this podcast, but I should release the video tomorrow, I think, for guitar. So we got drums, and then the next video guitar, and you kind of see the song come together little by little, you know. And then after that, we'll do bass and vocals.
All right, that sounds cool. Well, thank you very much, John. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. Appreciate it.